Chapter 18, Soul Searching. Inside Zeke's tent was furniture similar to what was in ours. Candles were scattered throughout, and the smell of woodsy, astringent odor lingers in the air. Across the room was an unfinished bald eagle canvas that sat on an easel. Paints and brushes laid on the table next to the painting. You paint? I asked. When I have time, it's stress relieving for me. The details of his work were perfect. Such a beautiful painting. How do you get it to come to life? In order to achieve a meticulous finish, it comes down to how quickly or slowly you move the brush, how lightly or heavily you press, and a lot of patience. Patience was one of my weaknesses. I'm impressed, a man of many trades. I continued to admire his Native American decor. The spiritual feeling was very positive. Hanging around the tent were different sized dream catchers. One in particular caught my eye. In the center was a gray wolf sewn in the web. 3 small feathers hung at the bottom with orange and blue beads on the strings. But the closer I examined this distinctive piece of art, the more the wolf's eyes seemed to be shimmering in a gold color that glistened, almost like it was speaking to me. Dream catchers are known to capture the bad dreams and deliver the good dreams. He reached up to touch a feather. My grandfather's Native American. He believed that it's more than just catching nightmares. The web serves as a spiritual protector, similar to a spider web. Any demonic energy is sucked in and destroyed. They are beautiful, I said as I gazed at the craftsmanship put into the design. My nightmares have been crazy lately. This could have been useful. Zeke stepped closer to the one I was captivated with. He unhooked the dream catcher with the wolf in the center. He held it out. Here, you should have this. I shook my head. I can't take that. It's all good. I want you to have it. His friendly smile was hard to say no to. Thank you, I said as I took the beautiful dream catcher in my hand. He rubbed his hands together in a circular motion. We both locked eyes for a brief second. He stuttered and swallowed. I'm going to go grab something and we can get started. He walked over to the smaller table, shuffling through some clothes. While digging frantically through all his pants pockets, I watched as he seemed to get distressed. What exactly are you looking for? I asked. My purple amethyst. The crystal helps me during my times of meditation. It calms and awakens my mind and soul. While I continued to search, I noticed a picture frame sitting on the table. I laid down the dream catcher and grabbed the frame to get a closer look. The picture was a young lady with beautiful, long, dark brown hair with gold dolphin earrings. This must have been Zoe. He reached for the frame out of my hand. I don't know why I still have this. He laid it face down on the table and continued to search. While he shuffled through his belongings, I returned the frame to its proper position. Inside my pocket was my lucky amber. I don't have any crystal, but what if we use this piece of amber my grandmother gave me? He reached for it. It's beautiful, he grinned. This may work, especially if it has significant value to you. Between the 2 cots was a brown oval rug with an exotic and ornate design. He took a seat in the center. I sat down in front of him, both of us facing each other with our legs crossed. Zeke took the piece of orange amber and set it on the rug. Come in close and place your hands over mine with a few inches of space. I shuffled closer, feeling a little timid. My heart felt uneasy. Zeke put both hands out and I hovered mine over his hands without touching them, staring deep into his different color eyes, waiting for his guidance. One eye glowing flames and the other crystals. In his mind, he began to telepathically communicate with me. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. I stopped him. I quickly stood up as fear set in. I can't do this. My hands felt sweaty and my breathing was shaky and shredded. I began rubbing my necklace. What if I see something I don't want to? I questioned. What if it upsets the baby? Maybe we shouldn't do this. I don't do new things without Mike. My heart hammered in my chest. I felt a tingling feeling coming from my hands. He stood up. Hey, it's I, he said as he reached for my shoulder. If you don't want to do this, we don't have to. You are in complete control. I got lost in his eyes, and suddenly my body became paralyzed. A rush of warm energy flowed through me from his hand into my shoulder, moving to my heart, slowing it down until it was back to normal beating. The tingling feeling stopped. How was he doing that? turning my twisted fear into tranquility. A few seconds went by as I composed myself and took a deep breath. I was intrigued by our unexplainable connection. My gut feeling was to trust him. He hadn't let me down so far. The baby seemed to trust him as well. No, I'm ready, I replied. I need to do this. We sat back down on the rug. Zeke nodded and we tried again. We stared into each other's eyes. The glowing returned. I let him back in. Immediately, out of my peripheral vision, I saw the piece of amber glowing an orange and yellow hue. It continued to get brighter. This usually only happened when the sun shone through it, but inside the tent, that wasn't the case. My curiosity grew, anticipating what was next. Before either of us could say anything, his eyes beamed a bright purple as mine tingled with electrical pulses. Then, in between our hands were swirls of purple and white energy rotating in a clockwise motion. Releasing out of my fingertips felt like small electrical shocks, similar to when I'd had my meltdown, but not painfully enough for me to pull away. Through my entire body was a mild zap that tingled, starting in my neck and flowing down to my toes. This was a new feeling for me. The tingling feeling progressed, but before deciding whether I should disconnect from this moment, lightning struck my eyes, just like before. Instead of the hot burning of flames or the cold crystals of ice, the feeling was a powerful burst of jolts, like I was getting slightly electrocuted in my eyes. The sound rumbled through my head, like miniature thunderstorms in my eardrums. Boom! The streaks of lightning bolts struck again. I closed my eyes tightly and slowly opened them, ready to take on whatever stood before me. Everything was foggy. I blinked a few times to bring my eyes to focus. Zeke and I were no longer in his tent. I blinked a few more times to see clearer. Did we just teleport? Standing to my right was Zeke, and all around us was thin green grass that shimmered with a sparkle. Nothing like the thick blades of Florida grass. We reached down to touch it, soft like a fleece blanket. But as I touched it, a feeling passed through me, an overwhelming amount of joyfulness and sheer bliss. We gazed at each other and smiled. My fear was completely gone. The only emotion I felt was happiness and love. A glowing violet butterfly passed my face, but oddly, the insect had 4 wings instead of 2. Where were we? Then it clicked. I knew exactly what was happening. These were my soul's memories. She was showing us what I needed to see. Not far from us were 7 beautiful ladies with long blonde hair dancing and singing to flowing music. This wasn't Earth. This was Pleiades. Everything was different here, from the grass we touched to the air we breathed, a paradise of delight, a feeling of pure ecstasy. As we continued to observe the memory of the girls dancing, I noticed a shadow figure peeking from behind a tree. The closer I stepped, the more it came into focus. A tall, dark, and very intimidating hunter was hiding from their sight. My mouth opened wide, attempting to shout at them, but they couldn't hear me, nor did any words come out. Then the dark, sinister man jumped out from behind the tree, blindsiding the girls. They screamed and scattered toward a bush in fear, but the man grabbed one of the beautiful girl's arms. She panicked. Fear was written all over her face. I stepped closer, noticing her eyes glowing purple like mine. Who was this girl? Something about her seemed familiar. The ground shook, roots ripped out of the dirt, and the tree fell hard beside them. It startled the man enough for him to release his grip. The young lady dashed in the opposite direction of her sisters to get away from the hunter. As the rest of the ladies darted behind a bush, another young lady stepped out into the open. But it wasn't just any lady. She was a beautiful, strong, skilled female hunter with her silver bow in hand and arrows on her back. Her silver hair shimmered with streaks of glitter. It was pulled back in a ponytail, and the length was so long it reached down to her hips. Her white skin was flawless, and her eyes shone gray like the moon. The clothing she wore was of a goddess, from the stories my grandmother had told me. The female hunter stared down the male hunter. The female hunter stared down the male hunter, pulled back her bowstring, and before she released the arrow, the name appeared in my thoughts. Artemis, the goddess of wilderness, moon, and hunting. As the arrow released, the man dodged and scurried away. Artemis never missed, but this tactic was to scare him from returning. The fearless Artemis saved all the girls except for one. This girl was nowhere to be found. I glanced over at Zeke, and before either of us could speak, a bright white light pierced my eyes. I squeezed my eyes shut, afraid to open them, uncertain of what exactly was happening. Slowly I opened them, and in front of me was Zeke. We were no longer in the fields. We were back inside his tent. His eyes returned to normal, and the piece of amber was no longer shining. We stared at each other without speaking. I felt exhausted, and he appeared the same. After about a minute of collecting my thoughts, I finally spoke. "You saw what I saw?" I asked. He nodded. "Not the only time you knocked over a tree, Electra," he chuckled. "Not funny," I snapped. "And don't call me that. My name is Amber." I stood up and grabbed the piece of amber, placing it back into my pocket. "Okay, sorry," he said as he stood up. "But you're like a demigoddess. How cool is that?" "I guess," I shrugged. "I need to find Electra's sisters. If Alex's soul is Merope and mine is this Electra girl, it's possible the others could be here on Earth. Finding them may be a key to stopping Orion." He handed me a bottle of water. "But how are we going to find them?" "Maybe your uncle can help us," I asked while taking a sip. "Possibly," Zeke paused. "Amber, there's something else. I'm not exactly sure how to say this." I waited in silence. He swallowed hard before he spoke. "I'm feeling connected to you," he professed. "Like an unusual bond, an attraction I can't explain. More like a feeling that I've known you all my life, yet we just met a few days ago. But I don't see how that can be possible. You already unioned with Mike." I looked down, thinking how confusing this all was. I loved Mike so much. Our bond was unbreakable. I didn't want to believe Zeke's words. But he was right. Deep down, I felt it too. I was too scared to admit it. Saying it out loud worried me, like a betrayal to my husband. The twin flames bond was supposed to be the strongest bond in the universe. Accepting that another was connecting to me felt dishonoring, even though I had done nothing to hurt Mike. I was disappointed in my mixed feelings, allowing them to control me. "Amber, please tell me you feel the same thing, that I'm not going crazy," he pleaded. I took a deep breath and sighed. "Yeah, I feel it too." We both stood in silence for about a minute as I collected my thoughts, trying to come up with a way to suppress these emotions and address the more concerning issues at the moment. "So, how are you seeing and feeling what I see in these memories?" I asked. Zeke shook his head. "That's a good question. If I can see memories of the gods, then maybe I am one." If he was connecting with me, his soul must be one of the many gods. Maybe Electra had a love affair with his soul. That would explain these unusual feelings. My hand rubbed my chin. "Question is, which god are you?"